another weekly Wednesday wisdom. I am always your host, Justin Colby, and I guess always is the incorrect word there, as sometimes I have my friends Pat Precourt and Chantel and others fill in for me. So I'm glad you guys have been sticking around. Sorry, I'm sure you guys have missed me, missed my voice, missed the slides. So we are ready to finalize our real estate investing sales system. This is the 10th step that we'll be going into today, and this is, the last step that you guys will be learning about, which is closing the deal, getting it closed, getting your check, finalizing everything so that you can, close the deal and collect your check, right? So let's start with every seller. Let's talk about the sellers first. Every seller fits in, basically there's three categories, right? They're going to be completely unmotivated, right? They have no problems, there's no issues, there's no distress, there's no sense of urgency. So there's no real value that we can give them as an investor. Then there's going to be the people who are motivated and want to sell right now. Those are what we call the layups, the low-hanging fruit, the people that, are like, just give me the offer, I'll take it right away, I don't even care, I need out of the house, whatever needs to get done, it's all good, let's just move forward, right? Those are the people who, if you're the first person to get the offer, you're getting the deal no matter what. These are the, again, low-hanging fruit. And then you have the third category, which is the motivated people, which they're on the fence, right? There's not an extreme pain. They don't have an extreme motivation to get this done, but they like the idea of selling with ease, right? Or maybe you've been able to help them with the convenience, right? And shown them some of the benefits of working with you rather than, let's say, listing it on the MLS, right? So this is actually going to take some sales skills that you guys are going to need to hone in on as you watch all 10 steps, right? So this is really where you're going to learn how to overcome their objections, re-overcome their objections, re-overcome their objections again, so you can close the deal, right? So there really is only three categories that a seller will fit in. So once you have gone through this process and now you've made the offer, and the conversation is going to go one in two directions, right? So they're either going to flat out decline it, right? They don't like you, they don't like the offer, they don't want to move, they don't have they're going to flat decline it, right? And or they're going to decline it in a, I don't think we're close to numbers, right? In that case, you're going to have to define and overcome the objection. And then conversely, you're going to have done a great job talking them through the process, making sure they understand the paperwork, making sure that they like you and you have built incredible rapport through the first 9 steps, and then ultimately gave them the price they're looking for, right? So they're going to decline it, and in their decline, it could be you're so far off, they're unrealistic. But more often than not, as simple as you need to define exactly why they're declining it, right? You need to dig a little bit deeper to overcome those objections, so that you can solve the answer. And then again, they'll either accept it because you've done a great job in the 4 phases, right? So why sellers object? Well, they have a fear, right? So we aren't dealing with something that people go through every day, meaning people don't sell their homes every day. People don't buy homes every day. This is a industry that there is a lot more to it than just simply making a decision, right? They need to move. They need to figure out their families, their schools, their transportation. All of that plays into their decision making. And so most people most people have a natural fear when it has to do with making decisions around your income or around finances. And so, they, like most people, delay making a decision. It's easier that way. The path of least resistance is just to kick the can down the road, right? So they'll give you another objection in one form or another. Oh, we might as well wait till the summer. Well, then the summer hits. Well, we're just traveling so much. Why don't we just wait till we get settled back down when school starts? School just started. We're really busy, right? They just constantly are kicking that can down the road. So those are the objections that you now have to decipher, and really where your sales skills kick in. It's important to recognize that the seller's first object usually isn't real. Their first objection is just they may not want to deal with it right now. They don't want to have to address it. They're more focused on whatever, right? Whatever that is, but it's really not their main objection. For instance, the seller might say something like, I want to think about it. They don't want to think about it. Most likely, they're not going to think about it. You know, most likely it's almost a straight up lie. And so you need to say in rebuttal to something like that, well, you know, usually when you're thinking about it, you're creating situations that may or may not really, you know, play in here. So while I'm here, why don't you ask me some clarifying questions so that when you are thinking about it, you really do have the facts, right? So in that scenario, you're going to be able to draw out more of their actual objections by simply asking that question. So the first step to overcoming an objection is to uncover what's really holding them back. So that's why I say when someone says, I want to think about it, listen, Mr. Seller, completely understand you want to think about it. Totally natural. It's a big decision. That being said, when you're thinking about it, you may have questions, you might have thoughts that really are potentially untrue, or maybe you're going down the wrong path of thinking while you're thinking about it. So while I'm here, why don't we start to really dig in a little bit deeper of what those questions might be, what is making you hesitate, and why you're thinking about it? Because I'm here and two minds are better than one, and I think we can come to a mutually beneficial conclusion together rather than you possibly off on your own and me off on my own. I think the best we can do is come together and answer some of these things, right? So that is a way to overcome that. I think about it to really dig deeper to find their true objection. You know, you'll never uncover what's really holding someone back if you don't ask. So never accept the I want to think about it response after you've presented the offer. What is it? The price? Is it me? Is it the paperwork? Is it the process? I understand you need to think about it because it's a bigger decision than buying a pair of shoes. Obviously, I'm making light of this situation, trying to make them laugh. But listen, I'm here. So have I said something wrong? Have I done something wrong? Have I offended you in any way? No. Do you feel like we've built a pretty good rapport? Sure. Yeah, I think so. Okay, good. Me too. Is it the paperwork? Do you understand what the paperwork is saying? Or maybe do you want to review it again? Is it the process? Do you understand the process of what I've talked about opening up escrow, closing escrow, you know, getting the payoffs, all these steps, and how that all works? Are you clear there, right? And then lastly, if you really need to think about it, I completely understand, but listen, if it's price, you just need to tell me. I'm not certain I can do much about that right this second, but if we're that far off in price, you need to let me know, right? I think that would be the fair thing to do, wouldn't you? Right? So I'm asking further questions, I'm digging further because I just presented my offer and there's only really one or two real main reasons why someone's going to say no or they need to think about it. So I want to keep digging. The most common stated objection is price. So of course I say, listen, if we're not that far, or if we're that far, you need to let me know. I gave you a price based on everything I just showed you, but if you have a reason that you're that far away, I would like to know that to see if there's any way that we can get closer. But if they do object to your offer based around price, don't first start negotiating price right away, right? You don't want to negotiate against yourself. What happens a lot of times with us investors is they say price, and you say, oh, well, okay, well, I could probably go up $5,000. They haven't said anything. They haven't even countered your offer yet, right? And all of a sudden, we as the investor are like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to increase my offer. Because we get so excited, right? We get all worked up, and it's natural, right? But then you're actually working against yourself. So first of all, you want to find out if you're in the ballpark. Ask if there's any other reasons that the price is holding them up. And if so, get a verbal commitment, right? Slowly work out all the terms because, yeah, it might be price, but it might be price because they don't have money right now to move. That might be the price. Maybe they need $5,000 to rent a U-Haul truck. Maybe they need whatever they need, but you don't know until you ask the question, right? You don't know what's really holding them up. So if they say, or if I would say, what if I could do this or that to flush out more objections? So the what if, then close, right? If I could, then can you, right? If I could help you with moving, can we get this done today, right? If, then, right? It's a close, right? So overcoming objections, you're really just pushing them further down the road into you're putting them in a place of certainty, right? Without breaking rapport. You're getting them down to a place where they can become comfortable. And so it's really important to overcome the proper objections. You see, what we do so often is we want to just nail down price. Price, 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 price. But out of the last 9 steps that I just brought you through, very rarely is it just price. But we all of a sudden say, okay, I'm going to show you comparables, and I'm going to show you, low comps and high comps, and I'm going to justify my offer. Price, 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 price. And they're thinking, well, I'm 85 years old, and I have nowhere to live if you buy my house right now. So what would I do if I sold? But because we get so excited and we can justify our number and it's going to make sense, that's all we all ultimately talk about. And you're not really realizing, because you're not asking the right questions, that they have nowhere to go right now. So what good is it to them to sell their home? Everything you say to the seller is from the point forward should be said with the intent of bolstering their certainty that accepting your offer and doing business with you will get them out of pain or into pleasure. At the end of the day, right now in Phoenix, this very moment, if I had to tell you guys one reason people are selling right now to me, is timing and circumstance, period. Timing and circumstance. I go after all great lists, right? I go after high equity, I go after owner occ, I go after absentee homeowners, I go after probate, I go after empty nesters, 55 and older. I go after all of these lists. But what I can tell you is right now it is all about timing and circumstance for people. All about timing and circumstance for people. So the more you can do to get them in a place of certainty that right now is the right time, the circumstances make it the right time, and you will help their circumstances moving forward so it makes sense, you will ultimately get them to understand what you are offering. The benefits of working with you are way above any other option that they possibly are even considering, right? Use the seller's leverage points that you can uncover in step 3 to raise their level of certainty. Again, you're dealing with someone's finances. You're dealing with someone's livelihood. Most people take slow action when it comes to this type of business, so to speak, right? If you ask anyone who's in insurance or investments, stock investments or, any type of investment vehicle, people don't just walk in and say, okay, I'm going to just do this or do that, right? They want to think about it. They want to mull it over. They want to meet. They want to continue talking about it. We're in a similar type of field, right? So the more you bring them into certainty that this is the right decision, that now is the right decision for them, and why, the better off you're going to be. Reassociate them to their past. The pain that they're going through, make them realize the benefits of what this can bring them, right? And pain doesn't always have to be financial. Pain doesn't always have to be they can't pay their mortgage or they can't pay their HOA or whatever. Again, I used this several times, but pain was a woman came into my office because my acquisition manager said she's frantic, she needs to close now, but she has a sister who's squatting. Her sister that was squatting was her pain. She had no problem with the mortgage. She had no financial issue. Her sister was taking advantage of her, and that caused her so much pain she had to sell. And literally, I got an extra $10,000 discount, or maybe it was even 20, because I was able to get her out of her pain, right? Make sure you understand that it is a certainty that if you move with us, if you work with us, you will be better off. While addressing the seller's objections, you must continually ask them for the order. Always be closing, right? We've all heard that, but you always want to close. So you answer the objection, you say, okay, are we ready to move forward now? Answer another objection. Okay, are you ready to sign the paperwork? Answer another objection. Are we ready to sign and open up escrow? Answer another objection. Okay, we ready to get this thing going? I'd like to get this all settled up so I can wire in my money by the end of the day, right? You always going to go back to the close. You always want to go to what I call pen and paper after every time you overcome an objection. Now, let me take a step back. That's at step 10. If you're overcoming objections in step 4 and 5, okay, that does not mean you go pen to paper at step 4 and 5. There's a process to this, right? So make sure that you understand I'm talking specifically about step 10. A great close is the feel, felt, found close. It is common, in the sales industry. This is not common just to real estate, but to everything. It really gives them, it continues to build rapport as you're talking to them, and it typically goes something like this, right? I understand how you feel, right? Feel, felt, found. I worked with another seller in a similar situation as yours, and they felt the exact same way you do, Mr. Seller. Now, what he found that is much easier to let someone else deal with the tenant situation rather than continue to deal with it on your own. Or, Mrs. Seller, what the other seller found was it is easier for us to go in and buy it in 7 days and evict your sister than it is to deal with it yourself, spend the money it costs, so on and so on. We'll take on the cost of it. I'll just need a price reduction. And what the other seller found is it really was a benefit to them, right? So again, I understand how you feel. I've worked with many sellers who have felt the same way. And what they have found was because of my service, it made sense for them to reduce their price so it can be done and be done in a very easy manner, right? This is just a very traditional close that is used in many, many industries. Now, negotiating price with the sellers, again, as I mentioned earlier, don't bid against yourself. If you're going to give an offer, wait for them to counter. Very often we get so excited and we want to just, if we don't hear back from them, we give the offer and they just sit there and nothing is said for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. We'll immediately say, well, I might have an extra couple grand. I mean, are we getting close? All of a sudden now you went from a $110,000 offer to a $112,000 offer. You haven't even allowed them to counter, right? They may have been thinking, wow, I'm getting way more money than I thought I was, and you're already increasing your offer, and they're already excited from your 110 offer. You haven't allowed them to do anything or say anything, and now you're already increasing the offer that you're giving them. Always know your comps. I've talked about this many, many times. The seller may know what the other houses have sold for, but they also more often than not don't. They think they know, right? They go and check Zillow and whatnot, but then they also don't realize the cost that goes in, the rehabs that was done. Now you want to show them specifically. If they say, oh, my neighbor sold for this, or so-and-so realtor told me that, say, oh, let me show you exact numbers, right? I don't want to talk in hypotheticals. I want to talk in reality. I want to talk in facts. Is that fair, Mr. Seller? So you always want to be prepared to bring up comps and even show them the comps if need be. Don't be quick to come up on your price just because the seller says they check Zillow or the neighbor down the street raised their price. Your biggest jump should be your first counteroffer, right? So let's say you offer $110,000 and it doesn't go very well, and they say, yeah, we're not really that close. The next offer that you offer needs to be your biggest jump. So if the reality is you could have went to 120, then I would say your biggest jump could be, I'm going to 115. You just went from 110 to 115. That's $5,000. That's basically a 4% increase. I mean, that's huge, right? That needs to be your biggest jump. every little jump from there on is 500, 1,000, 1,500, smaller, much smaller, right? You don't want to be overly eager when you're talking to them, right? I always envision, I don't know how many of you guys have puppies or have had puppies, or maybe you have a dog that gets really excited when you get home and they kind of pee all over the place, right? It's like uncontrollable, literally uncontrollable. My family has one of those dogs. Every time I come home, she gets so excited, she just wiggles around, she starts peeing in the house. It's like, and I think she's like 5 years old. She's an adult dog. She's not a puppy. Um, but it's uncontrollable, and I always relate that to how we are as investors. We get so excited, we get so ramped up, we get so like, excited about this whole thing that we just keep bidding against ourselves. We don't even allow the seller to bid against, us. We just keep going. And then we overpay for it. And for those of you who are fix and flippers, how many times have you overpaid for a home? How many times have you gone over budget because you didn't stick to your numbers, right? I mean, it just happens. It just happens. So maintain your composure. Stay calm, right? You need to make sure that you stay calm because other people won't. So as you move closer to the price, get a verbal commitment from them. Again, back to I think step 6 or 7 about the minor commitments. You need to continue getting minor commitments the whole time. Even in step 10, as you're closing, get minor commitments. So what if I could, I'm not saying I can, but what if I could do X price? Can we do business today? I mentioned this earlier, right? If I can go to X, can we get this done today? If I can get a U-Haul, then can we sign the paperwork? If I, then you, right? If I, then you. That is a real scenario. Continue to get these minor commitments. Additional leverage for sellers who are stuck on price, mismatch them, right? So I have a good friend, Todd. Todd talks about mismatching. What that really means to me, and I haven't come up with a better word, so I just used his word, but what that means to me is you basically are pushing them away. You're giving them an answer they do not expect, right? So if you're looking for a higher price, why not just list it with a realtor or a real estate agent? They don't really expect you to say that. You're mismatching their expectation with what you say, okay? It's not in alignment with what they're going to be expecting. A lot of times it throws them off. Well, and then they're going to start saying, well, I don't want the slow process, or I don't want to have to wait for a buyer, or, I need to close in 7 days. All of a sudden, you start hearing the real objections because you threw something at them that they were not expecting. You put them on their heels, and now they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, the reason why I didn't do that is because I need to close in 7 days before my next mortgage payment is over. Or I need to do this because of that. Like, you're going to get more genuine objections than simply price. Get them to calculate what it would cost them in dollars to list with an agent. This should be done every time. It's not just at the close, but you need to make sure that they understand the cost of realtor commissions. We would just wholesale the property, and there was realtor commissions, right? We included them into our payoff because we knew that at very minimum we were going to have one agent bring in a buyer and they're going to want 3%, right? So including repair costs, what is it going to take to repair the home? How much insurance is going to be needed? How much closing costs, commissions, seller concessions, etc. You should have a way to show them. Ask them if the extra money they'd receive by listing it is worth it. Not to mention days on market. Like in Phoenix, our days on market are 71 days on market. That's basically 2 months of, not basically, it's 2 months more mortgage payments. So if your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month, you're now an extra $4,000 into this whole process. So if we're only off by a couple thousand, is it really worth it? You're going to end up paying 2 more months mortgage, which basically wipes out whatever you think you're going to be getting, right? If the seller isn't willing to budge, then test the resolve by simply asking, are you saying if I can give you X, then you and I can't do business? If I can't get you to the number you want that you want to listen to, we cannot do business. And if they say yes, then you have your answer, right? But if they stumble, which they most often do, which will, well, if we can get closer than, you know, this, or if you can make it easier like this, then we can do business. You push them, you again mismatch them, where you give them something that they're not actually expecting from you. You will ultimately be able to see, like, they get put back on their heels and they start to show their hand, because they don't expect it, right? It's when you're playing poker and everyone's keeping their hands so close, and all of a sudden someone goes all in with, you know, $300 worth of chips, and you're like, we're just on the blinds right now. Like, no one's even anteed, right? Like, holy hell. Okay, well, right now you have to expose whether you have a terrible hand or a great hand, because someone's pushing. You didn't expect that to come. So now you got to have to react to it. Now I'm on my heels as a poker player. Same thing when you're saying these lines, right? You can't lose what you never had. And that's a philosophy amongst life, right? If you never had something, you can't lose it. If the seller says they're willing to walk away from the sale, don't be afraid to push them further, because you didn't really have it. So push to find their motivation. They will come back to you, right? They will open up to you. They will give you the real objection because you're pushing. And you have nothing to lose because you really never had it in the first place, right? So a stealth mismatch is a takeaway. And this is some of the best stuff, right? If the seller says your offer is too low, I think I'll just continue to rent it out. Mr. Seller, you're probably right. I think it's a good thing you hang on to it. Like, after all, it sounds like a pretty good property. I think you should, you know, take care of it. And, you know, if they pay you on time, you're probably right. You should probably keep it. And just shut up, right? Um, they will then say, well, they're not always on time, or, you know, well, yeah, they're on time, but they treat my house so poorly, and I'm always out there fixing things, and it's always a pain in my butt, and, and. Well, Mr. Seller, obviously you like me. Obviously you're interested in selling. How do we make this work? I'm interested in buying your home. I'm interested in taking away the pain of dealing with being a landlord and having to always fix stuff. So how do we take this away from you, right? Again, when you push, they're going to open up to you and really give you the real objections, right? That's the intention there. Once the seller agrees to accept the offer, you know, what would you like me to do now? You want their idea, you want it to be their idea that it's ready to sign the paperwork, open up escrow, start down the process, right? You want them to come up with this idea, because then you can always say, hey, Mr. Seller, you know, I asked you what you want me to do, and you said let's open up escrow. So we went down that path. And lastly, guys, use the boomerang technique to seal the deal. If you've ever thrown a boomerang, if you've ever seen someone throw the boomerang, you know the harder you throw that thing, the harder and farther and faster it's going to come back to you, right? So the boomerang technique is pushing them as hard and as far away from you as possible. You know what? You should keep the house. You definitely should list it. Why wouldn't you be listing it? I think it's a great idea to list it. I mean, just push, because ultimately that thing is going to come springing back at you, because they're going to be so taken back by why you're so adamant that they go list it or they keep the property, you know, and then it confirms their decision to do business with you, you know, and ask them ultimately, are you sure? Are you sure this is something you want to do, that you feel is a win-win for both sides? Are you sure, Mr. Seller? Yeah. Let's just get this thing done. Right? Now you're cementing it. Now it's like rock. Now you have them. Right? That is going to ultimately be key. So guys, that's step 10. That is it for you. That is all 10 steps of the REI sales system. As I've mentioned to you, I'm going to continue to dig in and make this a little bit better, but I wanted to get this out there because I know it's the start of the year, or it was almost 2 months ago. I want you guys good at sales. This is a huge component. We are in marketing and sales. I'm going to make this even better next go around, so I'm excited for that. Any questions before we wrap it up here on this lovely Wednesday? Nope, all good, thanks. Appreciate you guys. Sweet, good content, appreciate it, guys. Right on. Any questions? Justin, you rock. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, all right. Well, if we don't have any questions, then I'm going to wrap it up. This was the finale of the REI Sales System. It's been my pleasure talking to you all. I will be back next week. Next Wednesday, baby, we'll be back. We'll be on to something bigger and better. And I'm ready to rock and roll. Nelson, thank you very much. And then Brett, these are all recorded and they are in the Wholesaling Academy under the weekly Wednesday Wisdom. So you can just go in there and keep watching these videos and look at them and pause it and, you know, write them down and all of that. So they're recorded weekly in the Wednesday Weekly Wisdoms. So anyways, that is all for me, folks. We are out of here. I will see you next Wednesday. Peace.